Good day. Today we're going to be going through one of our new modules that we've recently introduced called the Control Center. My name's Harold Kroeter, and I've got Sean Swiggers who heads up analytics for us, and he's going to be going through the details of this. Just as a high-level introduction, within the platform there is so many deep dive analytics and insights that are available for you, and certainly you'll learn over time to go into certain areas in that. But a requirement we've always had is to maybe have a single place we can go to and get some of the easy answers, some of the quick actions, right? Maybe the 80-20 rule, if we just tackle a particular country or a particular business, how much would that save us, or how big an impact is that, or which are the top 5 businesses or the top 5 countries or divisions or whatever it might be. And then to get a single place to get different kinds of views, whether it might be around cost, adoption, different kind of license optimization opportunities. And so what we came up with in working with various partners is with our Control Center dashboard, which you're seeing here. So the Control Center comes through automatically in the overview screen if you have it enabled. If it's not enabled in the back end, you will just get the traditional menus that were there before, which you can see at the bottom, which is the group by and the cost by tags. That is always still available to you. So you can go in there and you can click and see how many resources you've had over 3 days, 12 days, etc. And you can see how the tagging engine is picking up costs as well. And you can also drag and drop different fields from AD and play with that. But the Control Center now is an overview, so you'll find it in the overview area. And it is in the Office 365 menu, as you see on the left-hand side. You may not see a bunch of the other menus in your environment, and you may also choose to give this to only the screen to somebody, for example. So that puts it sort of in context. It is, again, it's about giving you those sort of 80-20s, where are my big impacts? Where can I see the big changes? What are my actionable insights? And Sean will go through all of that with you. So I'll hand it over to Sean and get him to go through all the details with you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Sean.
Thanks, Harold. Hi, everyone. So I'll take you through the Control Center. I'll give you an overview. So essentially, we've laid out the Control Center so that the look is consistent between the different views. You'll notice that on the left-hand side in all the screens is the selection area. So basically, with that, you can select between different areas. And then to the right of that, there's some additional data. Then on the right, the very right, basically, there's an area that has the detailed view of the data being displayed. So if I start on the left-hand side, the top 3 buttons change the underlying data set that's viewed on the map and in the right-hand table. So it changes all the underlying data. And that's been grouped into 3 areas: accounts, adoption and consumption, and then cost. So you can see, as an example, at the moment we've selected licensed accounts. So we can see within the organization there are 135 licensed accounts, and we can see geographically where they're on a map, but we can also see on the side here where they are. So as an alternate, so if I chose total accounts, you can see the change in the data. So here we choose total accounts in the organization, and we can see that they're actually 310. So you can quickly pick up 310 accounts in the organization, and of those 135 are licensed, and then we can see the data on those. And then so we can, if it just as a quick view, you can look through the few different categories of data. So for example, adoption consumption looks at a different set of data. Let's give it a second. So here, for example, we can see things like mail statistics, OneDrive statistics. So if I looked at perhaps active mail users in the previous month, we can see that of the 135 licensed, you got roughly 80 are active in mail, and again we can see where they are. So then further, so that's the view of moving between the data sets. So then a little bit more of what's happening on the right-hand side. So essentially, here we've picked on the assigned license cost. Just as an exercise, I'll pick assigned license cost active in less than 30 days, so active users on the licenses. And there we can see basically, the breakdown by country. But we could also similarly, we could go and choose to look at that rather by line of business. So we may decide we want to see that view by line of business. We can then go and see that, there's the same view by line of business, and you can see basically who has the most value in licenses and the assigned license cost. At the same time, you could expand that and you could get the details of the users within that. And then that data is also exportable. So if you select the visual and you basically you go there, you can then export that data and you can get it to Excel. You can have, so if you wanted to do an exercise of seeing inactive licenses, you could filter by line of business or country or whatever you chose, and then you can export that and action it. So that's the, and then over here you'll see there's a question mark, and this also gives an overview of basically of what I'm talking you through. So if there's a need, you can have a look at this too. So then we've also then got a filter here for internal and external users. So this is always interesting because you'll notice in organizations, there's been a sort of an increasing number of external users coming into the environment. So you can get a view on that as well on the data. So that describes that mainly what's happening in the top three buttons. Then down bottom left here, you'll notice there are a few different buttons, and these represent different views. So the top three are dealing with the same data and they're a similar look and feel of data, and looking at accounts and different dimensions and data sets relating to accounts. The bottom two then deal with more specifically with licensing. So I'll take you through the first three, and then we can move on to licensing. The second view. So if I choose the button business overview by line of business, it's basically the same page as in the previous business overview, but what has been added is just another layer of line of business. So here you can see, if we're looking at total accounts again, for example, and if we chose a country, you can see we've got the lines of business added as a dimension. So if we looked at South Africa, for example, it would then focus in on that, and you get a feel for the lines of business within South Africa. So so we could get a better feel for that. Then the overview manager, again, you'll notice the same theme on the look and feel. So everything is laid out the same, but then we can start looking at you can see managers, and you can see breakdowns of hierarchies below that. So same as previously, you could see what has been. Basically, you can go along reporting lines and view the same data along those lines.
And Sean, just for clarity, so where you've got managers, obviously this is a small demo environment, but you would see all management level, and it's not about that individual, it's about that team. And then you can drill down and see a team under a team and a team under that team. That's all linked back to Active Directory's manager field, is that right?
Correct, yeah, that's linked to Active Directory's manager field.
Thanks.
Okay, so that ends the brief overview of the business overview. I'm going to move then to the license optimization. So license optimization is then looking at the business from a license perspective, and then also an account/license perspective, where you're looking at the licenses and their usage and their non-usage, I guess. So again, we've got there's a little bit more data is introduced. On the left-hand side, again, we have some selections. So we can select some data, and then we've got the license SKUs that have been purchased, so you can get a list of those. And then we also, at the bottom middle here, you'll see what's been added. Essentially, is a detailed view of the licenses of the accounts in an organization, broken up into categories. So so for example, we can see at the top here, so also to do with this, these have been categorized into, so these are categories based on, are you using your accounts, aren't you using accounts, are your users active, aren't they active? So up top you can see that they've been broken in a RAG status. So essentially, if you look at red, it then filters you onto two categories of users. So the one is disabled with licenses, which is obviously not a good thing. And the other one is then aged accounts with licenses. So people who haven't logged on for over 90 days, but they have licenses. And often you'll see those creeping into the thousands of days. So it's a good category to look at. Then Amber looks at things, sort of in betweens. So this is along the lines of aged accounts, no logins for a certain amount of times, not using products like email, Word, Excel, no, sorry, not Word, Excel, email, Skype, Teams, down that road. And then green are the ones that, basically not to worry about really. So external, unlicensed, so sort of more or less unlicensed accounts, disabled, unlicensed, or just straight active users. So that gives you, that sort of view. And then with that, you can then from that you can drill through to get the detailed list of that. So if you're looking to perhaps action, say if we looked at the red category and you wanted to action that, we could drill down right into the disabled and not licensed, and we could go and export that list and we could send that off to be actioned. Again, we could also export it here, based on if you wanted to look at it from not from the account perspective, but if you wanted to overlay a tag, sort of a country or a line of business, you could export the list here. So if we chose, again the red accounts that were licensed and inactive, we could go and select it and export it here from the business perspective. So that gives you, that just gives you easy access to the difficult sort of or the murky sort of license or account management. License optimization. So this one then is looking at basically, if you look at this, we've got three pies at the top, and on each of them we're selecting a license SKU. So what we're looking at is that license SKU, how does that stack up against the previous categories we defined? So if I go back one screen, so over here the same, within these categories we've made these categories to do with inactivity. So if you're looking at, so apart from categorizing the licenses as red, amber, green, we've also categorized them as aged, unused. So you can see it filters the same list of categories on a different criteria. So disabled, there we've got disabled, unlicensed, and disabled for greater than 90 days, and then just for a shorter time period. So if I go back here, we've sliced up the, this is looking at each SKU that we've chosen through that lens. So basically looking at how many of the accounts within that SKU are aged, how many of them are disabled, how many of them are, have low app usage. So for example, if I looked at the let's take an E3 and we looked at disabled, we can see we've got four accounts in the disabled category, and again we could go and there you can see they've been filtered down, and we can go and we could then go and drill through and see those accounts. And the other option then is to go and export that data. So we could then export the data. So we could export that data. And now if you notice along the bottom, there are three buttons. Summarize license detail. So this is a very summarized view. So this would give an example would be that, if we chose unused here, for example, it would give you a list and it would say Sean hasn't used his account and he's got 3 licenses. So it wouldn't give much detail. Then if I looked at this button, it would say that Sean has got 3 licenses. So when you export the data, it says Sean has got three licenses, his account's disabled, and the licenses are X, Y, and Z. And then this one here, it would say Sean has got 3 licenses. These are the licenses, and then it gives the details of the plans within the license. So it really gets down to a detailed level. So for different purposes, you'd want different amounts of detail, and different people would want different amounts of detail. So it's worth just noting. It's worth having a look at the levels of detail given by each of those buttons. So and all of these you can just export and it'll send it to Excel. And that is basically an overview. Any questions on that, Harold, that you'd like to dig deeper into?
No, I think that's good from my side. Again, the whole intent of this, as Sean went through there, you will know what you're after, whether you want to look at utilization or adoption, or you want to try and save money, where do I first go to save money? Maybe I need to send HR or the head of IT or whoever it might be in a particular country or business, their details of where we can save money. So it's a very quick way just to get to that world. You're literally clicking on there on the right hand side, export. You want to see the view by country or by division or any kind of custom tag for that matter that you might want, and you can then export it and you've got the answers. So again, really effective control center. You don't need to go anywhere else. There is, of course, a lot of higher levels of drill down details in the various dashboards in the Resta platform. There are other training videos on those different menu areas, but we're very excited about the control center in general as that overview of your environment. So that's appreciated. Thank you, Sean. I don't think there's anything else. I think you've covered it all.
Great, thank you.